Hi, I'm Alison Hargreaves, Guides for Brides. The information we're going to be sharing today is specifically for venues. It's not being widely shared, and the reasons will become fairly obvious. It is based on data gathered from just over 1,150 couples over the last 2 weeks. So since infection rates have been rising, and 3/4 of those couples that answered the survey have got weddings between July and September. So this is really relevant information in this critical opening up period. And whether those are the couples that have postponed multiple times, whether it's that they're getting frustrated at seeing other parts of the country really being able to open up to lots and lots of activities, or whether it's just that they're not understanding the risk mitigations that would be quite easy to put into place. What we're noticing is these couples perceptions and thoughts about risks around their weddings are probably very, very different from your venue risk assessment. And in order to keep your venue open, you obviously need to stay the right side of the EHO. But you also need to make sure that members of your team, and particularly key members of the team, aren't needing to self-isolate because of the activities of weddings the previous week. We are, I believe, all now in the wedding sector really losing confidence in the government giving us the solutions we need. So my hope is that by also sharing information about Trusted Trace and Wedding Safe, we are able to provide venues and the wedding sector more widely with some solutions that might just help give confidence to the government, give confidence to couples, and most importantly, keep everyone open, operating and safe. So let me just share my screen. So what we are looking at here. Let's go straight into the stats. So we carried out this piece of research as a direct response to a discussion prompted by one of our online Q&As. Brides were concerned about the idea of testing before their wedding in case they tested positive. We were quite interested in their intentions. And this is perhaps the most alarming statistic, and the one that obviously we are needing to keep within just wedding venues and wedding planners. So 77% of couples said that they would go ahead with their wedding if they had a positive COVID test immediately before their wedding, rather than lose their money. So 77%. Of those 77%, only 22% would put additional precautions in place to reduce the risk of them infecting their guests or the venue staff. As they're legally required to self-isolate, it's highly unlikely that these precautions will include telling you. Only 23% would postpone regardless of the cost. So we were interested in what it would take for others to postpone. 32% would postpone if most of the costs were refunded. Just 7% if only some of the costs are refunded. So bearing in mind the fact this is immediately before the wedding, when all costs have realistically been incurred by suppliers and by the venue, a government-backed insurance scheme might help, but actually in less than 1/3 of all cases. The good news is when it comes to their guests, they do at least fully support testing. So 68% would either encourage or insist on guests taking a lateral flow test. And scientific data now suggests that although these tests are acceptable as being just 50% accurate, they are 90% accurate in picking up the most infectious people. So testing on the morning of the event makes the most sense. And testing afterwards would catch anyone that was on an upward curve on the wedding day. Too late to prevent them coming in and infecting others, but useful so that you can notify others and at least reduce the spread. We'll have a look at how our Trusted Trace software can help with that later on. Once they're at the wedding, any idea of risk mitigation seems to go out of the window. So to look at this data with a positive slant, which of course what we're doing when we talk to couples, Parts of it suggest that these couples have a lot of confidence in weddings bouncing back to normal fast, a good sign when encouraging new couples to book. When it comes to dancing, 90% are planning on their music, live music, DJs, dance floors being exactly as planned. And remember, these are weddings from July to September, a time that most of us are expecting to be doing what we can reasonably to reduce risk. Yet only 12% are planning on more ventilation and 11% are planning on a larger dance floor to allow a little bit more social distancing. 2% are planning on contact-based dancing. So this is Kaylee's barn dances, that sort of activity. If we look at catering, perhaps no surprise, 60% are planning on having canapes and with their drinks reception. But 47% are planning on buffets or grazing tables. And we're hearing from a lot of self-hire venues that they aren't always sharing those intentions with their venue until it's too late. And despite the government making it really clear that individually served and plated meals are the safest way to go, only 36% are planning on that for their entire wedding day. We know there's going to be a squeeze on hospitality staff, so perhaps making buffets safer is going to be the better and more popular option all round. There is some good news. Some activities are naturally changing at the moment and will help reduce risk. So 74% of events now plan to take place over just one day. So the question we asked included things like rehearsal dinners and the barbecue or lunch the day after an event. 26% of events are taking place over 2 or more days, so run a slightly higher risk, but these are going to include quite a number of cultural weddings that haven't been able to happen until now. When it comes to hen and stag, 69% are planning on it going ahead, but more than 2 weeks before, just 8% during the week. Sadly, 23% of people are completely giving up on being able to have their hen and stag activities. So before we come on to solutions, we'll have a quick look at insurance, because some venues have been asking for us to look into this from the point of view of public liability insurance. In addition to pressure on the government to offer a government-backed COVID insurance scheme for events, some of the main insurers are now assessing how to re-enter the market. As far as we've ascertained, none are planning to cover COVID or other pandemics, which cuts their market by around 42%, according to this survey. Of the 43% of couples here that say they have insurance, we suspect that almost all of these policies were taken out post-COVID, with one particular Irish-based company who continue to offer cover. And that they may not necessarily have been making it entirely clear that it won't cover COVID. So if you are speaking to any couples that are needing to postpone or cancel and think they have insurance, it's worth just checking with the checking on the small print. 20% of couples are wanting to insure against failure of businesses. Inevitably, the negative press around viability of businesses is taking its toll on confidence now. This is 4 times the number of people looking for public liability insurance. So again, it suggests that couples and venues have a different idea of where the risks really lie. So looking at this data, we need to work hard to ensure weddings don't become super spreaders. This simple risk matrix here, which we've shared with couples to show why certain activities have been limited until vaccination rates increase, helps show what we're looking at when the restrictions are lifted. We know that to keep the probability of an infection down, that probably means preventing bringing COVID in. If there is an outbreak, we then need to do what we can to reduce the severity, i.e. how many are infected either at or after the event, but also need to look at who those people are. Does it include vulnerable guests where the impact could be catastrophic? Or perhaps your head chef, or guests at a wedding that your team are hosting a few days later. Again, that impact the number of people that you can be infected if you aren't aware of an infection coming into the venue. As the government removes restrictions on numbers and activities, the severity increases. So we need to keep the probability as low as we can. So here we're looking at the COVID status of attendees is the most critical element on probability. And if you think about it, with weddings of 15, 30, very small numbers, you can see why it wasn't quite so necessary to know about the COVID status to be sure that everyone had been vaccinated or tested coming in. But now that if an infection comes in, if guests are mixing, if we've got highly infectious current strains and we've got vulnerable guests now coming to these weddings, we really need to watch for the severity and therefore the impact. So we need to keep guests safe, and important to note that couples are very much behind the idea that vaccine or testing is the right way to do that. So 84% are now saying that the solution that we hope the government were going to come up with of COVID status certification, 84% of couples are supporting that, with only 10% preferring a restriction on numbers, or 6% larger dance floors, masks, social distancing, and so on. We developed our Trusted Trace software back in the summer. So there was a method for venues to get early notification if a guest tested positive after attending an event. It was used for the Public Health England pilot, listed by the Cabinet Office, adopted as part of the Events Industry AIM Secure standard, and is being widely used. Once the importance of adding COVID status became apparent, we added optional COVID status certification so that venues or couples can set their own policy for each event. So this is very different from the government system. The government invested millions in their own COVID status certification, as it was widely accepted as a logical way to run COVID safe events. But sadly, there's already too much pushback from the public on intentions around government software, and it looks highly unlikely it's going to be rolled out as hoped. It's helpful to us. Trusted Trace was already doing all that was needed, and it meant that any data that we gather could be kept within the wedding industry. We're hoping all venues will be using it over the next weeks, whether it's to protect staff at events, give couples and their guests reassurance in it being a COVID safe event, to give your venue an early warning of a possible outbreak, rather than hearing about it for others, or simply to have the evidence you need for your EHO or insurers, or for your risk assessments, that you're doing all you can to protect guests and your businesses. For those not familiar, though, anyone that was at the Bridelux event over the weekend will have used it. Attendees are sent either a link or a code to put in the declaration form. And you can see to the right, in addition to track and trace information that we ask for, they can add COVID status. It's entirely optional. It's down to venues or the couple to decide what they ask for. So for example, at Bridelux, they asked everyone to upload a photo of a lateral flow test and the barcode. Incredibly simple to do. They're then sent the guest is sent a check-in pass with your email address and instruction to contact you if they test positive after the event. There's also on that check-in pass, there's a link to report anonymously if they prefer. There's literally no need for you as a venue to do anything more than send the link to the couple so that they can circulate it to their guests and suppliers. If you need it, the guest information is automatically and safely stored for 21 days. And if you do have an outbreak, we then help you if Track and Trace are requesting it. If you want to manually check everyone in, you can do so. You'll see there's a list of attendees, and as you check them in, you can add additional information such as whether they've been temperature checked on arrival, or as the government asked for us to develop this to be used contactlessly for their pilot, you can actually use any smartphone to scan the guest's check-in pass on arrival. That then automatically checks them in and records the time. If you have any questions at all on Trusted Trace, do let me know, but the website hopefully is fairly self-explanatory. We do have a weddings version of it, which allows couples to sign up for it as well as wedding venues. And there is a more generic version that's used by other industries, pubs, restaurants, clubs, and so on as well. So finally, the Guides for Brides have been looking at other industries to see what they've been doing to give more reassurance to consumers. We base Wedding Safe on schemes such as Good to Go, Safe Hire, and AIM Secure. It's a self-certification scheme where you work through a series of questions. Couples have said that the single most important factor to feel safe at a wedding is that their venue is following guidelines. And we knew that compliance with guidelines is an important point to be making to reassure the government too. So that's the first area that the standard covers. It also confirms venues and businesses are following risk assessments, have public liability insurance, that they give all clients a contract, an issue that was uncovered by the COVID cancellations and postponements, and that they are known and trusted in the industry. It's completely free to sign up. And as it allows businesses to upload proof of public liability insurance, you might find as a venue it becomes a helpful resource for you to check your recommended suppliers have adequate insurance in place. So I will be doing all I can to help push towards a safe reopening while keeping our venues and suppliers as informed as possible and giving all the tools you need to keep your venue as COVID safe as possible. In the meantime, I am absolutely delighted we've got such a great team here making the most of all of the many opportunities to market your venue. There really are a huge number of couples there now with that confidence to search and book online. So confidence is definitely back, and I hope that we can look forward to a busy time ahead. As ever, any questions at all, just ping me an email, alison@guidesforbrides.co.uk. But I hope that has been helpful today. Thank you.